We balance our affirmations of what is true with our aspirations for what is good by paying attention to our hearts.
Mm-hmm.
So much of what we do, so much of what we value as religious liberals involves more than the pursuit of truth. Indeed, some of what is most noble about us is less concerned with cold calculations of what we ought to believe or what we ought to think about the world in which we live, and more by the aspirations of our heart. Think about our 7 principles. I won't go through all of them here. Some of you know them by heart. Some of you may just be learning them. I believe deep in my heart that they are fundamentally true. That the 7 principles upon which we base our faith are a reliable and sufficient basis for meaningful spiritual community and meaningful spiritual lives as individuals. But there are assumptions there, assumptions of the heart. Who says that democracy is more true than autocracy? It is an affirmation of the heart that leads us to proclaim that as being true. Who can really say for certain that human beings are worthy and dignified in the absolute sort of sense which Unitarian Universalists profess it? And yet we profess it as an act of faith, because our experience of our neighbors and of ourselves tell us that there is a fundamental worthiness and dignity in human beings. And so we declare it as being true, but we declare it passionately, emotionally, and this leads us to action. It is not enough to know the truth. We must have enough passion in our hearts, married to the wisdom in our minds, to motivate us to act upon what we know, to motivate us to seek to be more compassionate, more kind, more thoughtful. 2 years ago, like Mark in the movie, I found myself at my mother's bedside, expecting that she would not live for much longer. Mercifully, she survived, and after a long road to recovery, she thrives today as best she can at her age and with her limitations. Now, I know certain truths about the world, but I love my mother. And when I saw that movie earlier in the week, I understood what the principal character was going through. And I realized that I've never talked to my mother, who I've known my whole life. I've never talked to my mother about her understanding of the afterlife. I've made assumptions because she's a Unitarian Universalist and she attends church with me. But I've never had a heart-to-heart conversation about what she believes. And the truths that I know she holds have always been reflected to me rather than necessarily handed on directly. I don't know. But I realized earlier this week that I would lie if I had to. I would lie to be compassionate and kind, because for me, the spiritual journey is as much about a direction of the heart as it is about the discipline of my mind. Wisdom and compassion are shared values, and we really wouldn't want one without the other. A faith which represents a direction of the heart will not be grounded in simplistic sentimentalism or in frivolous feeling, although sentiment and feeling will be found within it. Perhaps even simplicity and a certain measure of frivolity. Hey, this church has a band. Rather, it will come from the heart of who we are as human beings. Our faith seeks to cultivate a mature society that reflects the possibilities of mature individuals dwelling together in community without surrendering the sovereignty of their selves. We often speak of the heart as a metaphor for human feeling and emotion, but it has also long represented human integrity, the blending together of wisdom and compassion, the making of whole persons of ourselves. One of the remarkable Unitarian ministers of the 19th century, Henry Simmons, reminded us that this larger faith does indeed bring a new day in religion and outshines the old doctrines as sunrise does the morning star. But it comes more like a new year, to bring life as well as light, to melt old animosities into a larger charity, and to warm souls to a higher growth. It will not merely be truth convincing the intellect, but a feeling kindling the soul. It will be, in short, a direction of the heart.